Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and a change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley. A very, very, very cold and snowy Lehigh Valley. Part of the United States currently. Western Hemisphere, North American continent. On this planet Earth. The only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. And if you paid attention to our Facebook group, which you should be doing, that other side of information, you will have seen earlier in the week, I want to say it was Wednesday, perhaps, posted a really excellent video from the BBC, very short, only about 3.5 minutes, that shows a computer model of exactly what the Milky Way galaxy looks like from outside the Milky Way galaxy, which of course we have never seen. We've only recently left the solar system. And that was with Voyagers that were launched in 1977. That said, really neat computer-generated visual construction of what the Milky Way galaxy looks like from outside the Milky Way galaxy based on space telescope observations and some computer programming translated into 3D and kind of reversed, so to speak, instead of from where we are, kind of reversed out. Really neat little video. I've told you 1,000 times that we not everything on the Facebook group is politics. We do animal advocacy, articles about the environment, astronomy, health related articles that I suppose they have a twinge of politics to them anyway. I mean, the federal government recently this week, one of the last actions of the Biden administration banned red food dye number 3, I think it is, because it causes cancer, and it's been banned in Europe, of course, for years. God knows we wouldn't learn anything from Europe. It's profits, he said sarcastically. But that said, I've told you 1,000 times, we do other stuff on our group. You need to be part of it. We want you to be part of it. I do have a tiny bit of news about our group, and it's kind of strange. I didn't even really notice, which is ridiculous, that I did not notice this about my own group. But bravo, folks. We passed 1,400 members, which may not sound like a lot, but if they each gave me $1, I would take it. I'm not saying that you have to give me $1. That's not what I mean. But we're over 1,400 members now. That's awesome. I would love to get to 1,500 maybe by St. Patrick's Day, since I'm Irish. That'd be brilliant. I continue to invite people. I hope that you will continue to invite people and let them learn about the program and learn about what we do here. I just realized I really said something. Ooh, I got to turn that off. Boy, there we go. I had to. Oh, my goodness. I'm expecting guests this evening, but because of our software and hardware issues, they actually have to call in via phone. So we're going to be doing guests via phone. And I had the Google Voice turned on Do Not Disturb. That's not a good thing. At least I remembered to fix that. But welcome to our big 3-hour program here on a Sunday evening. It is 6:07 Eastern Time, and you are listening to and watching The Kennedy Effect for the 19th of January, 2025. I am not a disembodied head. I just have a black shirt on. Hopefully you can see that. I have it on because it's long sleeve and because I'm freezing. And I have been cold for about 2 weeks now, and I can't get the chill out of my body. So I'm back to long sleeves. You might hear a bit of a, let's say a hiss, but like an extra something in the background. I have a heater running in this room right now, trying to blow some air in here. It's freezing in here. Or at least if it's not freezing, I am. But anyway, a hearty welcome to Nicholas and my wife. And, yep, I said that out loud, currying favor with the boss. And Donna and Randall and Bettina, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, Miss Phoebe, to everybody who's here, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can watch us and listen to us live right now. Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, Hot101.net, the TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, and of course my own Facebook page, Jeff Kennedy, my name, a fancy blue square right there in the bottom left. Bottom left? Yeah, bottom left of your screen. I don't know my right and left. We are also live, of course, on our home group Facebook page, which I just gushed over. We're now over 1,400 members. By no means whatsoever is my group the largest one on Facebook. It's not even close. There are groups out there that have millions of people in it. But you know what? Every time we reach a new milestone like that, I'm proud of it. I appreciate it. And I continue to ask you to make us larger and larger and larger. And it's not about agreement, by the way. You don't have to agree with me on anything to be a part of the group. You just have to be a decent human being and be civil. You want to disagree? Do it all you want. Let's do it civilly. Let's do it politely. Let's do it factually. Yes, suck. I said factually. That other side of information, we are live there right now. We're also live on the 100 plus places we have been able to share the program to so far this evening. I have some more to do in our 7 o'clock hour. But we're well over 100 already, to every single group on Facebook, every individual, every group, large, small, local, statewide, regional, national, global, whether it is based on radio or politics, new or old, private or public, large or small. We thank you for allowing us to be part of your corner of the Facebook universe. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. You can stay right there if you want. Watch in any of the 100 places we've shared to. If you'd like me to see your comments, now I will do my best to keep up with them along the way. If you want me to see your comments, please come over to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. We are live right now on our YouTube channel, which is also called That Other Side of Information. If you ever miss any of our programs, or you can't be with us for 3 whole hours tonight, which is a lot to ask of somebody, our YouTube channel is always the best place to go. When we are live, you can find out we are there. You can watch when we're done. You can watch the recording. We are live on Twitch. Jeff Kennedy Talk host or I think it might still be Jeff R. Kennedy. I know I changed the name because when I go and look, it's changed. But if you I think if you type into the search Jeff Kennedy, you will find me, and we invite you, if you are a Twitch person or you would like another place to check out the program other than Facebook. Twitch is there as well. We are live there right now. We are also live on LinkedIn. Jeff Kennedy, search for me there. You can find us live there as well. The audio of the program blasts around the globe via 2 internet radio stations. One is one of the very first, the very originators of the medium, hot101.net. Our name is our web address, www.hot101101.net. If you can connect to the internet below, above, or on Earth with desktops, laptops, tablets, phones, you can Bluetooth to speakers, earbuds, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. If you can connect, you can listen, and it's all for free. And you don't need our website to do it. You can use our Apple app. If you have an Apple device, go to the Apple App Store. Android devices, you can go to the Google Play Store, and any other type of device, you can use the TuneIn radio app. Go to the search bar, type in hot101.net. It's not 10, the letter O, it's 101.net. Also blasting out on the other end of the spectrum, one of the newest global internet radio stations, one I am proud to be half owner of, and that is GCPR, Ghost Club Productions Radio .live, GCPR.live, GCPR.live. Go to our website, GCPR.live, www.gcpr.live. Link is already in the chat. You can find our schedule of programming. You can listen 24/7, and it's all for free. Find out about our hosts, bios, show synopses. All of it is right there. And we have, if I'm not mistaken, in the next, I would say probably month, maybe 6 weeks, as many as 3 new shows coming online. GCPR continues to grow. We have to thank you for that. GCPR is there 24/7 as well. And there's plenty of hours in a week to listen to both. I believe that deeply in my heart. Need some great music? Go to hot101.net. If you want to talk, go to GCPR. There's time in a week. There's a lot of hours in a week to do both. We encourage you to do so. We are live right now on the 19th of January, 2025. Thrilled to have you. I'm waiting for my first guest to call in, so I'm kind of supposed to be calling in around 6:15, so I don't want to get too deep into any topics. Let me just discuss with you quickly. You do not tune into this to hear about my health, but as you know, my health is always an issue here. It's just not great, and I did get some good news this week. I'm not terminal. I will just say that. Still not great news, but I'm not terminal. So that's a good thing. It means you're stuck with me. So take that for what it's worth. You're stuck with me. But that said, let's get to my first guest, because I think we may have more calling in later in the program, because I do not expect our first guest to be with us for 3 hours. That's way too much to ask. I do think we're going to have some other folks calling in later in the program. Could possibly have a Thomas the Villain Bishop call in later in the program, as well as we prepare for tomorrow and everything that tomorrow brings us. Our first guest is a very special guest that I am going to treat better than any other guest I have ever had here, because I like to keep peace at home. I want to be the golden child. I want to be the best. I only have competition from one other person, but I want to be the best child-in-law ever. So I'm going to be the best, nicest, fill in the blank of all things beautiful and wonderful and rainbows and unicorns, and gluten-free cinnamon cupcakes and so on, cookies, whatever else I can think of right now instead of just shutting up. Our first guest is actually And I will see how well she's used to the title. I haven't said it yet. I do not think, and I don't think I've said it to her yet. My mother-in-law is on the line, Darlene Volchansky. She is here to talk about what she now does for a living. We've spent a lot of time on the program talking about the war in Ukraine. War in Ukraine is going to take a very significant turn in about, let me see, 18 hours. You saw a Republican House member who was chair of the Intelligence Committee removed this week by Speaker Johnson at the direction of Trump, because this particular chair actually has the audacity to live in reality. He is a supporter of funding and defending Ukraine so it can defend itself. Now, while my mother-in-law is not directly involved in the war itself, what she is doing is teaching English via this lovely internet thing that we have here to students in Ukraine. She's not a war correspondent. She's not a war expert. But hearing her talk about her students, actually meeting one of them via the internet when we were there visiting once, and it's hard to do anything with anyone in Ukraine and not feel the tension of the first, well, it's not really the first, it's certainly close enough, somewhere, the largest ground war in Europe since World War II. That tension is constantly there. So we're going to talk mostly about what she is actually doing, a couple of war questions, and I'm going to be the nicest, most easiest host ever. This is going to be a bloody cakewalk. This it's going to be the most gentle, just no toughies. It's not going to be tough. It's going to be an easy one because, darn it, I love my wife and I have to live here. So that said, well, welcome, Mother.
Hello, dear
Hello. I think that's the first time I've actually said that to you. I think it's the first time I actually said it. Your official title. How's that sound?
And how are you doing on this snowy evening?
I think I screwed up. So I put on a long sleeve shirt, which happens to be black. So I look a bit like it looks a bit like the Blue Man Group. I look a bit like a disemboweled head, and my hands are floating around. They're mixing it with the black background. You can barely see my shoulders. And I have a heater going in here, which I think I turned up too high because I am now starting to sweat because, heaven forbid, I would get anything correct. But that said, we have several inches of snow. Your grandpuppy is very excited. She is very happy. We were at the dog run earlier today playing when there was just a coating in the grass. She did not care. It was good enough for her. We went out right before I came up here to start the program because your daughter's been working all day. And she was ankle.
Surprise.
Yes, yeah, there's a shocker. Here's something completely different. If dogs have ankles, which I guess they do, she was ankle deep, and she's quite happy. And but it's not going to be easy for them the next few days. It's going to be brutally cold. But generally speaking, she's fine. But you are not. Well, you're always here to hear about the dog. We FaceTime more than most people should, and probably as much as we try to FaceTime with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and the children. FaceTime so Grandma can look at the grandpa. and see what she's doing, and listen and watch
Boys
her.
love to see you.
Yeah, listen to her her squeaky toys in the background. But anyway,
thanks so much for letting me chat with you for a few minutes this evening, Deb. I appreciate it.
So just tell the folks, who are you? How did you get here? And what is it that you're doing that you've listened to the program. I've been doing this for 6 years. You've certainly been a part of it since your daughter was dumb enough to start dating you. So you know how we start. Who are you? How did you get here? And if you want to go straight into what it is that you're doing, you take over here for a few minutes.
Okay. I'm actually a retired secondary English teacher. I currently teach graduate courses online, principally to teachers who are earning advanced degrees. But I also like to dabble in volunteer work because I think it's so important. And I'm currently participating in a non-profit organization called Engine. And they write that capital E, capital N, capital G, and then lowercase I-N. And the organization is committed to supporting Ukrainians and helping to rebuild the country through the power of language. And they depend so much on volunteers. There are only about 30 regular staff people who are actually paid, and the rest are all volunteers, and there are 24,000 volunteers. The majority are from the United States, but there are some from other countries as well. And people can volunteer without being a teacher. We have doctors, we have attorneys, we have accountants, we have nurses, we have secretaries. A lot of the individuals who volunteer are retired, but not all of them are. Teenagers can become involved. It's something that school groups can do. It's something that a group of workers in a workplace could do. And basically, what a volunteer is committing to is having a weekly video chat for 1 hour. That's the minimum commitment. And they must commit to 3 months to the minimum. I've actually been doing this for 2 years, and I was with one speaking partner for 1 year and 2 months. Another speaking partner, my second one, I've been with for 1.5 years now, and we're going strong. And I just was matched with a third speaking partner this week and met her for the first time on Saturday. And the purpose of the video chat is to develop their English speaking and listening skills, because although they are taught English at a very young age, that basically consists of writing English, completing grammar exercises, but they really don't have the opportunity to have everyday conversations in English and to practice practical English. And through the conversations, we help them to develop their skills. We also provide emotional support because the war has affected them greatly. It's affected them physically, emotionally, mentally. Their lives are very much changed. Sometimes I think that we have forgotten in the United States that they are still being shelled. They still have air raids. They're still going to shelters. So many of them are in dire straits, and they see learning English as an opportunity to connect globally and to It's for career purposes in some cases. They can find another job, or they can get a promotion if they develop their English skills. And it's also a cultural exchange. It's an opportunity for them to know that the rest of the world cares about them and to learn about other countries, and for the volunteers to learn about Ukraine.
I would add most recently, some of the largest attacks by Russia have come on significant dates. They were shelled by missile and drone attack on Christmas Day. They were shelled, missile and drone attack on the day that President Zelensky offered firefighters to fight the wildfires in California. The Russians have been slowly gaining territory because they simply have a larger population of people to call on and draft and conscript. Let us not forget that the North Koreans sent 10 to 12,000 troops to fight in Ukraine, ostensibly alongside the Russians, although they seem to have been left on their own to a great extent and thrown into the worst of the fighting. American intelligence and European intelligence suggests that up to 3,000 of them have already been killed. There have been hundreds who have been captured and dozens who have defected while there. But this war continues. It is current. It's happening right now. And they are facing a real challenge starting tomorrow because Trump doesn't want to support them, wants Russia to have their will and take them because he's been ordered to do that.
And you mentioned, Jeff, they bombed them on Christmas. They even bombed them on Christmas Eve. They also bombed them on the first day of school when all the children were going to school on the first day.
And targeted the schools and targeted the children.
It's calculated. It's horrific. My speaking partners have sent me videos of children running down the street with the teachers running with them to get to a shelter. They now have shelters built within the schools. When my first speaking partner and I first began our conversations, she showed me what they did in their apartment in Kyiv at the beginning of the war, because if you remember, Putin tried to take Kyiv early on in the war. And they had their mattress against their windows. They would go to the quarter of the apartment building when there was shelling. If the air alerts were really bad, they would go to a subway, and there would just be hordes of people in the subway for hours and hours. It wasn't unusual for her to send me a message early in the morning, my time, saying that she couldn't meet because she was up all night because the shelling was all night, or it started at 3 or 4 in the morning their time. And they still have the power shut off. Sometimes the government tells them when it will be off, and sometimes it's the result of their infrastructure being bombed, and it's just off for that reason, and they weren't aware that it was going to happen. They do have generators, thankfully, and they can function, they get by. My second speaking partner is actually an online English teacher. She teaches English to adult students, and for quite some time, when they were shelled, she needed to go to a gas station to do her online work because she would not be able to work online at home. And my first speaking partner worked in IT and loved her job, but for a year, she worked from her tiny apartment because it wasn't safe to be at work. And she was overjoyed. I mean, she was dancing in the kitchen when they were committed to go back to work. And she was able to see her colleagues again.
Let us remember, this is not speculation. This is not, obviously, I give you all an awful lot of opinion on this program. This is not of that. Putin is not fighting a strategic war. He is not fighting, well, he's fighting to conquer territory, but he's not fighting to capture things for his own use. He has bombed power plants, including nuclear power plants. He has bombed the power grid, schools, hospitals, apartment buildings. The Ukrainians themselves have actually remarked that it has been a bit surprising to this day the lack of attacks that have happened at Ukrainian military installations. Have there been attacks at Ukrainian military installations? Of course. This is a war. It's one of the things that you do. And bombing a country's industry is also something that you do. The Russians have not concentrated on those particular targets. What they have concentrated on are large apartment buildings, the power grid, the water systems, schools, hospitals, daycare centers. They haven't even bombed the parliament building in Kyiv, to the best of my knowledge. And if somebody wants to correct me, as always, very welcome to do so. Because when I get things wrong, I want it fixed. When I get lied to, that's what Twitter's for. And that's what Fox is for. All OAN, all the way Newsmax, all the way down the line. But that said, Putin is fighting a war not to conquer, not just to conquer Ukraine, to erase it. To erase the Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian people, the language, all of it. You may remember the stories from earlier on in the war when certain Ukrainian towns were captured. Children were taken back inside Russian territory, placed with Russian families to be raised as Russian. Some of them will be young enough when they do reach adulthood, they'll never remember their time. These children will likely never be returned. This is not just a war of conquest. It is a war of erasure. It is a war of destruction. It is a war. It is a total, and in many, many ways, to borrow a German phrase, it is total war. They're looking to erase Ukraine, not just conquer. Quick aside, it's 6:30.
That's exactly.
No, go ahead.
That's exactly it, Jeff. My speaking partners have told me that in southern Ukraine, Russians have gone into homes and taken their electronic equipment, and the only thing they've been permitted to watch is Russian media. One of my speaking partners told me that near the beginning of the war, her best friend and her boyfriend were in southern Ukraine in a town that became occupied by Russians, and they were lucky to escape, but her little sister, who was only 12, was shot and killed. And it's just unbelievable what they live with in their daily lives. My second speaking partner told me just about a month ago that her mother was walking to work and came upon a bomb and was very, very upset, very frightened. And she called her daughter, my speaking partner, and her daughter said, "Mom, just take your medication and go to work. You'll be fine." They are so resilient, and they are so committed to rebelling and resisting and going on with their lives. I mean, they have stores open, they have restaurants open, they try to hang on to normal life as much as they can. But these conversations that we have with them give them the opportunity to learn the English that they need. And we're talking about everyday English, the idioms that are used by English speakers, so that they can interact with workers from various parts of the world. My speaking partner, who worked in IT, her company was in communication with Silicon Valley. And if she learned English and became extremely fluent, she could work her way up the ladder, have greater job opportunities, and that's what she was doing. They see it as a way to resist. They see it as a means to a better life. And like I said, anybody can become a volunteer. It's an hour out of your time during the week. And you can teach them idioms. You can teach them grammar if you want to, or you can just have everyday conversations. You can talk about your hobbies, your interests, what you did over the weekend, because that's valuable to them. Emotionally, it's valuable, and it's also valuable as far as their skill set is concerned.
Well, all right. I'm late. Let me reset the program. You are why I'm late, because it's my program.
Oh, sorry.
And because I didn't shut up, and because I let myself ramble. That said, this is that you are. Hello, everybody. He said, "You're welcome, and thank you for being here to Kennedy Effect Live with you for the 19th of January, 2025. We're live with you right now. Live, I say, live with you on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, and Hot101.net. Of course, we are live on my Facebook. My fancy name is right there in the bottom left-hand corner of this fancy square. And we are live on our home group Facebook page for all things that surround our program, That Other Side of Information. Also the name of our YouTube channel, where we are live right now. If you miss any of the program, youtube.com/That Other Side of Information is the best place to tune in and follow the program. And if you ever miss any of it, it's the best place to go as well. We are live on Twitch. Jeff Kennedy Talk host, Jeff R. Kennedy. Just search me. You'll find me, because it keeps coming up on the screen as Jeff R. Kennedy, and I know I changed it. And then if I go to Twitch, if I signed in there right now, it would be different. Just search Jeff Kennedy. You'll find me. We're on LinkedIn at Jeff Kennedy as well. 2 global internet radio powerhouses. One of the very first. The other, one of the newest. Hot101.net. www.hot101.net. Our name is our web address. You can tune us in on any type of device that can connect to the internet, period, end of story. If you can connect, you can listen to us, www.hot101.net, 101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the Tune In radio app. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. GCPR Live, GCPR.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live. You can listen to us there right now. And it's all for free, as is Hot 101, by the way. It is all free. No login, no credit cards, no blood sample. Don't have to sign over your house or sign over your firstborn. That's kind of crazy. You could, but you don't have to. You can listen to us free on all of those places. We will take phone calls later in the program. Phone number that we have for the program only allows us one at a time. My mother-in-law is taking that phone line right now, and because I love my wife, she can take the phone line for as long as she wishes. So take that, everybody. You're just going to have to wait. So take that. I will take your questions and comments in the chat. As always, a big welcome to Phyllis, who just jumped in. I think I said hi to Donna before. George is in the chat. Why is George in the chat and not on the screen? because we still need your help with equipment here. George needs a brand new computer. I need a new computer. Or the program at some point is probably going to cease to exist because the money's not there for new radio equipment. Go to that other side of information on Facebook, go up to the featured tab, tap on that, an explanation of our GoFundMe is there. All we ask you to do is read it. If you can help, awesome. If you can't, we understand. I gotta be honest, it hasn't gone as well as I thought it would go. I see people raise a hell of a lot more money for a lot dumber things than this. But I understand if you can't be a part, it's not, money doesn't grow on trees, as our parents all told us. But if you can help us, we would be very, very, very grateful. I am not using the money to pay my mortgage, buy a new car, take a trip, or anything like that. It is strictly for use with this radio program, period, end of story. That other side of information on Facebook is our group, the featured tab. The GoFundMe is in there. George will probably put the link in the chat. Our guest is my mother-in-law. Now, George just I want you to know, Mom, that George put a comment in the chat. I would never say such a thing that says nepotism at its best. I would never do such a thing.
Couldn't say no to me, Jeff.
And I think, George, I will probably have to cut George's pay again. 0 minus 0 is still 0. He's in negative numbers, I think, at this point. So given everything, you had a full career teaching, you had kids, I'm married to one of them. Why do this? What's important about doing this? I don't think that you do this for you. I think you do it for your students. But why do you do it?
I think for a number of reasons. First of all, my husband, your father-in-law, grandfather was Ukrainian. He came to America as a very young man. I think he was about 22, and he worked on the Pennsylvania Railroad. So my husband has all those memories of him and his family, practice some of the traditions. I still make pasta bread. So that family tie and those cultural ties. Secondly, I always get stir crazy in January and February, a little bit of cabin fever, so I look for new adventures or meaningful volunteer work. And when I saw that, I had never heard of the organization before, but I decided to take that leap of faith, and I'm so glad I did, because now I have friends on the other side of the world who are dear to me. We've gotten very close. The first two, the third one I've just met. And I do it for myself in the sense that I want to understand the world. And I think we live in a global society now. I think we can't live in isolation. I like to learn more about cultures. I truly believe we need to respect each other and our traditions. So I learn it. I do it for my own self-development, but principally because I have always thought that this was a horrific situation. The aggression is frightening. Ukrainians believe that they are fighting the war for all of us. They have the boots on the ground, but they truly believe that they are fighting for freedom. And I think they're right.
Have any of your speaking partners taken part in the fight? Because we do know that women are fighting. Ukrainian women are fighting.
No, they have not. However, my first partner, I'm no longer routinely in touch with. but we spent over a year together, and I'm going to connect with her soon now the holidays are over, because I fear that her boyfriend would now be serving. Because based on his age, I think it would now be mandatory for him to serve.
I believe, if my memory serves, that the Ukrainian draft is still 21 to 35, but they are strongly considering, or at least the last report that I had seen, I will grant you that this was, grant you, the audience, that this was months ago. They were considering going 18 to 40. Now, volunteers, they've had volunteers into their 70s. Whether they've taken them or not is not, I honestly can't tell you. Women have volunteered. Expats, people who of Ukrainian descent who left Ukraine for either for greener pastures or different opportunities, or maybe they met someone and got married, have returned. Malcolm Nance, if you know who Malcolm Nance is, he is a national security expert, served in government, in the CIA and the NSA for years and years and years. Also is a decorated combat veteran, suited up and went and fought in Ukraine for, I think, the first year of the war. It was not a short thing, and it wasn't for notoriety, and it wasn't for publicity. He went and fought. The Ukrainians have often told us, President Zelensky has told us, and they have shown over and over and over and over again, and continue to do so. They are willing to fight. They are willing to do the fighting on behalf of the rest of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
All they're asking for is the means to do so. And the new regime that's coming in about 18 hours is probably going to cut all of that off. Now, the European Union, much to their congratulations, to their credit, has vowed to continue to supply Ukraine with everything that it needs. The two countries who are supplying Ukraine with possibly, I think, even more than is coming from the U.S. I'm going to get in a fight. I got a nose itch. Are the Swedes and the Finns. Two nations, by the way, that Russia fears. And they were exceptionally upset when these two nations finally joined NATO. I don't think the Russians really have the stones to take on either one, to be honest with you. But that's partially speculation on my point. Throughout World War II, the Russians could never take the Finns. They never took them. They tried like hell, and they never took them. But that's a whole different topic. You mentioned a couple things in the explanation of what the group does, or the organization does. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to make it a separate special question. Why do you think your speaking partners do this? I would think, with everything that's going on, the first thing at the top of their mind is probably not career advancement, although this is a part of it. If I learned Spanish, I could probably advance my career. If I learned, sure as hell, if I learned Mandarin, not even to make a joke about that, to be honest with you. But that said, why do you think your speaking partners do this?
Well, I can tell you what they have told me. My first speaking partner, who worked in IT, told me it was for career advancement, but I also think, reading between the lines, it was also for emotional support. She was right in Kiev. There was a lot of bombing. And I think it helped to have that, I don't want to say distraction, but that positive conversation. She could talk about her hobbies. She's a dancer. She's an incredible dancer. She showed me videos of herself dancing. It was an outlet for her, I think. And my second partner speaking partner, she lives with her parents. She's 28 years old. I think financially I think the war has had an impact on them financially. She really doesn't do much from week to week, except work online, read. Occasionally she goes away. She still goes to a store for groceries and things like that, but her life is pretty dismal. And I think, and she's got a great sense of humor, and I think just having that conversation every week is just something, hopefully, that she looks forward to. My third speaking partner, whom I just met, is a teacher. She teaches third grade, and she really is considering a career change. And she just thinks that if she develops her fluency, that perhaps that will help her in that job search.
I mean, it would seem like a bit of a self-answering question. They would do this as a bit of a distraction. But yet,
there are.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say there are situations in which volunteers have reported that their speaking partners have been in situations where they were being shelled and they didn't want to leave their laptops to go to a shelter. They wanted to continue with the conversation because they see it as rebelling against it. No, I'm not going to let them win. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do. It's just a resilience and a strength that is really admirable.
I think a lot of Americans, me included, I'm guilty of this, would just kind of think to themselves, why not leave? Go to Poland, go to Germany, Greece. The UK has taken in Ukrainian refugees. Why not just leave? What have you learned either from other volunteers or from your speaking partners about why they have not left? I happen to I suspect that we as Americans think it's just a lot easier to do than it really is.
I'm actually very surprised that they didn't leave, especially my first speaking partner who was living in Kyiv when Kyiv was really being assaulted. If you remember, the Russian troops were headed toward Kyiv at the beginning of the war, and the shelling on Kyiv has been horrendous, but they also have a fairly good protection system. My three partners have not left, and that's mainly because of the areas in which they live. One is in Brovary, which is like north, maybe 2 hours north of Kyiv, and my new partner is in Lviv, and that's very close to the Polish border. That's maybe 2 hours from the Polish border. And then my first one, as I said, was in Kyiv, and they feel like they're fairly safe, but they have friends who've gone to London. I think another friend went to Prague, and some of them have returned. But it just depends on the region, I think, that they're in and how worrisome that is for them to stay. But I think it's also that sense of bravery and defiance. We're not going to give up. We're going to stay here. This is our land. They are so proud of Ukraine. I hear it from all three of them. They are so proud of their heritage. They're so proud of their country. They resist anything Russian now. They even changed the date of Christmas, which used to be January 7th for them. It's now December 25th because they want to be like the rest of the European countries. They want to connect with the West. They don't want to do anything that Russia does.
is Engine still looking for volunteers, and is Ukraine the only country where Engine functions?
I believe it is the only country where Engine functions, and they are always looking for volunteers. There is actually a waiting list of Ukrainians who want to participate, but they don't. Engine doesn't currently have enough volunteers to accommodate them. It used to be free for all Ukrainians. Now, because it's expanded to this extent, it was started in 2020 by one young woman with a laptop who was tutoring one student. And she built this organization. And like I said, there are 24,000 volunteers, 26,000 Ukrainian students being served right now, but there are more on the waiting list. My newest speaking partner said she waited for a month before she was matched with me. She was matched one other time, but it didn't work out. I think the volunteer didn't have the technical skills. But volunteers can be anywhere from 13 to, I think there's someone who's 89. And the participants from Ukraine can be anywhere from 9 years old to 50 plus. And they get 1 year. They get 1 year of instruction, and then Engine moves on to another student. They can still stay in contact with the volunteer informally if they become friends, but they're not registered with Engine after a year. And now there's a fee for Ukrainian participants. It amounts to like $28 for the year, and that's just so they can cover some of their operating costs, but it doesn't cost volunteers anything, although they do encourage volunteers to donate so that they can keep the program running.
What technical skills are you talking about?
The online conversation.
It's basically. Oh.
I'm sorry?
I just knocked my own phone over. Don't worry. It's like I never did this before. Don't worry. It's okay. Just throwing my own phone around, knocking, punching shit. Like I know what I'm doing here.
Is your phone okay?
Yeah, but it's just dumb and stupid that I'm not paying attention to my own body. Isn't it? It's essentially a Zoom call. Am I correct?
It can be Zoom, it can be Google Meet, or any other platform that people can use. I don't use Zoom because I don't have a subscription, and Zoom kicks us out after a half hour, so we have to log back in, so it's a pain. So I use Google Meet.
Free Zoom.
It's not all that. Yeah.
The free
yeah, and
subscription, if you will kick you out after a certain amount of time. Right. So volunteers do not need to be computer programmers. You do not need to have a second bedroom full of broadcast equipment. You don't have to have any of that. It is basically you need a computer and the ability to know how to use a video conferencing platform, whether it is Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, FaceTime. And FaceTime, I actually think if both ends of the conversation are on Apple devices, FaceTime is still free, I'm pretty sure. And then I suppose whatever cellular, but regardless. So this is not a complicated thing. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. It really isn't all that complicated, and actually there's a whole lot of support for volunteers. The staff is wonderful. They, of course, the volunteer fills out an application, and then they have an online video interview, and then there's a training process, and it doesn't take that long. It's 2 sessions, and after that, they are there to support. After they've matched you with someone and you start working, they're there to support. They provide lesson plans if you actually want to use lesson plans, but they don't require you to. With one of my speaking partners, we just chat for an hour. Occasionally we'll talk about idioms. You know, I'll give her some new idioms because idioms are very difficult for them. Series of speech like get the ball rolling or off the top of my head, because they don't literally translate. So they need to learn them. They need to learn common ones. And you don't need to be a teacher to talk about those types of things. And
does Engine need anyone to help teach Irish curse words? I'm really bloody good at
I
them.
can check for you.
I'm absolutely fantastic at them. I'm really good at them. Like
I would probably take that.
We need
that
Gaelic
course.
curse words. I'm in. I mean, if that, you know, it would be a way to tell the Russians right where to go without them understanding a word of it. If they need Irish curse words, I'm all over it. And I'll get Alan as well. Your daughter has put a question in the chat, and that is, can folks make a donation to cover the fees of the Ukrainian-speaking partners on their behalf?
Oh.
You know that.
I don't know. I do know
okay,
that
remember, just remember that your daughter gave you the question that stumped you, not your favorite son-in-law. And again, you only have one, so by default, I think I might be the favorite, or at least I'm in the top 10.
Yeah, you are my favorite. You are my favorite son-in-law, hands down.
I kind of know. But that's let me pull a muscle, pat myself on the back here. I would tend to guess that someone could donate on their behalf, would be my guess, but you're not 100% certain of that.
I'm not 100% certain. I do know that they have a scholarship program for those Ukrainian students who can't afford essentially it's about $28. If they can't afford it, there are some spots available. Not a lot, but there are some.
Oh, actually, if you go to the website, I have put the link in the chat. I may have put the wrong link in the chat earlier on because I'm an idiot. But that said, I did put the link in the chat. I did put the wrong one in earlier. It's a .org, not a .com. That was my goof. I did put the link. I did put the link in again. I put the right one in this time, which is rare for me, but I did put the right one in. If you go to the correct link, there is a donate button at the top of the page. So check that out. I've now hit you up, folks, for 2 donations tonight. George just put our GoFundMe in there for radio equipment, and now I'm hitting you up for another one for engine. But, you know, as I said, you do what you are financially capable of doing. Nobody's holding it up to your head. If you are able to donate to either or both, we'll gladly take it. If you cannot, then don't. You have bills to pay, you have medicines to buy, and so on and so on. So do what is best. I thought I had another question, and I think it escaped me. I think it left my brain. I think it did. I'm going to ask another question, though, and I don't need to keep you too much longer. You can take off anytime you wish. It's a bit of an odd question, and I'm not sure that it's come up in any of your conversations, but there are, on the Facebook group and in my own personal Facebook, I post a lot of animal advocacy articles, lost, found pets, adopt senior pets, adopt, never buy, hunts that are just, you probably folks have folks, audience, everybody probably noticed that, especially starting on Boxing Day, posted a lot of articles against the fox hunts in the UK, which apparently is the traditional day to go fox hunting, which I did not know. It's pretty gross. It's very contrived. It's very caged. Fox are caught, caged, and then released. And it's not real hunting in that sense. Have any, not either, because you're free, have any of your, I'll remember, the brain will kick in at some point. It's great. It's a great program. I should listen to it. Have any of your, there's been a lot of articles that have come out in Ukraine of animals that have been affected by this war as well. Have any of your, or do any of your partners have animals, or have they helped? Have they told any stories about what's happening to the animal population of Ukraine? Because just as well over 1 million Ukrainians have fled the country, domesticated pets, I hate that term, but it is accurate, I guess, have been thousands and thousands and thousands of them have been shipped out to save their lives as well. And it's a pure curiosity question. If you don't know, you don't know. I was just wondering if anybody had mentioned that anywhere along the way.
Actually, one of my partners and I were just talking about this on Friday. They have a real problem with stray dogs, stray cats, real problem in the sense that those animals need help. Yeah, a lot of the people, when they went to this train station to flee, they couldn't take their dogs along. Dogs were left behind. I know she also mentioned zoos. I mean, at least I didn't really think about that, but zoos were bombed and there were animals injured and animals in total distress. And they do have requests for donations. I think she saw it online. There was one for a tiger, I think, that had been injured severely, because those animals are trapped. They can't go anywhere. But yeah, it is a real issue. I saw that, I think wasn't there a situation early on in the war when Russia bombed a dam and there was a lot of flooding? Yes, my first speaking partner sent that to me. It was like 2 years ago. A lot of the animals were drowning because of the flooding from the bombing. So it is a concern.
And I will ask this. I told you the gray matter would kick in eventually, folks. It did. So I was going to say that I was going to ask a hypothetical question, which is completely incorrect. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. Told you that the gray matter would kick in eventually. Glad I had a second cup of coffee today. That said, I ask you, the audience, this rhetorical question, meaning not one that needs an answer because the answer is absolutely obvious. What is the strategic advantage of bombing a zoo? The answer, of course, is none other than the emotional damage that it inflicts on the Ukrainian population. The sense that nothing is sacred.
Exactly, Jeff. I think you've underscored Putin's approach, heartless approach. I mean, bombing on the first day of school. What's the purpose in doing that but frightening them and, having their children being vulnerable, parents fearing for their children's lives? It's all psychological. It's all just merciless.
And that's the point of this. This is not, look, folks, I am not justifying China's wish to make Taiwan part of the greater Chinese nation again. And President Xi has made it very clear he's willing to take Taiwan back by force. China has no real design or wish to flatten and eradicate Taiwan. They want it back. They want its people back. They want its economy. They want its technology. They want the Taiwanese state, nation state, if you will, city state, back under Chinese control. President Xi is not looking to erase Taiwan from the map, which China very well has the power to do, by the way. It very much does. They are not looking to erase it. Putin's war in Ukraine is it is total war. We have not seen this. Even the Germans didn't do this. They wanted to capture certain infrastructure. Hitler ordered that Paris was never to be bombed because he wanted the city intact. London was only bombed at first by accident, and then in retaliation for British bombing of German cities. He didn't care about other cities like Warsaw and Antwerp. There's plenty of cities across Europe that obviously were bombed. He ordered Paris to be taken whole. He refused and ordered that it not be bombed. Putin's war in Ukraine is total. It is I know I said it already, I'm repeating myself. Then again, radio is a medium where you have to repeat yourself. This is about erasing Ukraine from the map, ending its culture, its language, its heritage, its history. Putin has said in public, in interviews, with both friendly and unfriendly media, does not consider Ukraine to be a separate nation. It is part of Russia in his mind. And the people living there are just kind of misguided Russians. Kind of develop their own dialect, not their own language, if you will. And might be a bit splitting hairs, but this is not about conquest. He needs Ukraine. He needs the wheat fields, and he needs the land for gas pipelines. But along the way, he's willing to flatten the entire country to get it. Dear God, he's been bombing nuclear power plants. And if there's a giant nuclear explosion or a meltdown, he doesn't care. And if anybody knows what actually happens during a meltdown, we'll get into that at a different time. I remember my 8th grade science teacher who fought in Vietnam. He was very much of a peacenik, an environmentalist long before environmentalism was something that we all talked about on a regular basis. And he described to us how a nuclear core could melt through the bottom of the plant and be pulled by the Earth's gravity down literally through to the center of the Earth. At that point, having gained so much momentum that it would literally shoot out the other side and then be pulled back again by gravity, melting its way literally entirely through the planet and back again and back again and back again until literally the planet was a piece of Swiss cheese. And Putin bombed these places simply to deny the Ukrainian people electricity. And once you deny them electricity, you deny them, depending on the type of home that you have, you might be denying them light, running water, heat, the ability to cook, all of these different things. This is total war. This is not just a war of strategy or conquest or seizing assets. This is about eradicating an entire people if they do not comply. Now, if Ukraine was to surrender tonight, I'm sure the bombing would stop, to be honest. He'd also capture and kill Zelensky, the entire parliament, probably the entire judiciary, and probably most of the professors and teachers. But the bombing would stop if they surrendered. As long as they continue to fight, he is willing, beyond willing, to flatten the entire country and kill everything he sees. And this isn't objective, this isn't subjective opinion. He's shown this. He's shown all of this. None of this is new. It is what's happened. And this English teaching program and organization is a small respite. Because we haven't had, this has never happened here. Since the Civil War, this has not happened here, on this continent. We have not had a ground war on this continent. We don't know, none of us know what this is like. None of us. There were air raid drills in Los Angeles during World War II. There were German subs that were spotted off the East Coast. There's captured film, Nazi film, of the Manhattan skyline. But we didn't have air raid warnings. We were not rushing down into the subways to keep ourselves alive. We had air raid drills, of course. Hell, I had an air raid drill in the 80s when Reagan was in office and we started spending the Russians into poverty, or the Soviets into poverty at the end of the Cold War, and we began making nuclear weapons on an assembly line. I had no nuclear air raid drill because God knows my desk was going to protect me. But that said, one of the funniest things in American history. Just get under your desk; it'll save you from the impending nuclear weapon that's going to be dropped literally a mile from your school. We would have been vaporized, and it would have been fine with me. I think I'd rather have been vaporized than die slowly from radiation poisoning, but that's a different topic for a different day. This is total war. Putin has done everything thus far, except chemical and nuclear weapons, and he has threatened them on a regular basis. Whatever small respite this organization provides, and it sounds like it's well beyond a small respite, it is well worth it. It is something that you need to look into. You can donate to the organization and cover the costs of a student. Again, $28 for a year. We're talking math I can't do in my head. 24 would be $2 a month. So we're talking $2.25 a month. We spend that at Starbucks or Wawa or Dunkin' Donuts or insert coffee purchase here. We spend that on a coffee on any given day. I would invite you, ask you, please give it some thought. And if you can afford it, awesome. I totally get it if you can't. But if you can afford it, please consider it. And you can consider volunteering yourself and being a tutor, I guess you would call it, and doing this on your own. And I would strongly encourage you to do so. I know Kristen and I have kicked it around a little bit. We haven't done it. We're a tiny bit busy in this house. We haven't done it, but we've certainly talked about it. And we happened to be at your house when you were having one of your lessons. It was interesting yet sad, yet encouraging somehow all at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that go on throughout the course of a conversation. We got to see it. I mean, how do you balance all of that? How do you think your students balance all of that? Because I know, I mean, I certainly didn't try to eavesdrop on your lesson, but it was, I mean, you did it right in the kitchen. It was hard to not to listen to some of it. But it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster sometimes. Some of these lessons.
It is, and it's amazing how close we get. After a few months, I mean, we share so much about our families, about our interests, and what's really remarkable is how many volunteers have actually met their Ukrainian-speaking partners. Our newsletter that they send out, electronic newsletter, has pictures all the time. Now, some of them, maybe they met in London, or maybe they met in Germany because they may have been Ukrainians who fled because of the war, or maybe they traveled to Poland to meet with their volunteer. I'm actually thinking about that very hard. A dream of mine would be to meet the second speaking partner that I've spent a year and a half with. We've grown so close that that's my dream, to meet her someday. It's you know, when we have our sessions, it's usually morning here, and I'm sitting with my cup of coffee, and it's late afternoon there, like 3-4 o'clock, and they're thinking about what they're going to have for dinner, and it's just two friends having a conversation across the world, and it's one of the best things I've ever done. I think one of the best experiences I've had. It's anybody who thinks that they might be interested, I would encourage you to apply, take that leap of faith. It's such a small amount of time. It's 1 hour in a week, but it means so much to them. And if you don't like it, you can bow out after, it's like 9 weeks that you have to commit to. So that's 9 meetings that you would need to do.
And you said, I think you said an hour a week?
That's what we're required to do, 1 hour per week. You can do 2 1.5-hour meetings, or you can do it all in 1 hour, which is what I do.
What else, before I let you go here for the bottom of the hour, as we approach 7:30 Eastern Time, just I turn the floor over to you. What else? Is there anything else about the program, or anything else about that you've learned about the war, or about Ukraine in general, that you wanted, or your group, just anything, or how great I am? Gosh, I'll talk about that too. But that said, just anything else that maybe we didn't get to touch on, or that you wanted to add, or expand on. If I cut you off too quick, but anything like that, just I'm going to turn the floor over to you. I don't want to keep going.
There is. Sure. There is one thing I didn't mention. There is a lot of flexibility with scheduling. If you would like to volunteer, you can specify what times and what days you would be available, and then they would match you up with someone who has those times in common. And you can also specify on what level you'd like to work. There are basic speakers, intermediate, and advanced. I've worked with 2 intermediate students and 1 advanced student. I have not yet worked on the basic level. I think a lot of ESL teachers, English as a second language teachers, probably work on the basic level. It would probably be more challenging because there's more of a language barrier, but you just kind of work through it together. You find your way together. And the only other thing I wanted to say is I have a container of snickerdoodles in the freezer for you to thank you for allowing me to be on tonight.
I was going to say that. To thank me for taking your daughter off your hands? No, that would have been Dad. Dad would have made those cookies then. But yeah. Well, that's okay. I will eat them, not because I love them, but because I don't want you to feel bad. But I'll eat them. I'll do it. I mean, somebody's got to do it. Dad's got to watch his
Thanks
sugar.
so much.
Dad's got to watch his sugar, so I'll eat them. I guess I'll have to. I'll take one for the team here. Whatever I got to do. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll really stretch myself, and I'll take one for the team. Whatever I got to do here. I know how it goes. I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Well, how do you feel here? It wasn't so hard, right?
No, not at all.
There you go.
Kind of comfy.
George put in the chat, by the way, who do I want killed for the snickerdoodles? Tempting.
Now, Kristen's gluten-free chocolate chip are off-limits, though. She doesn't need to share.
Well, what I like to joke with her about is that I'll trade you. Like, she'll say, do you want to try one of these gluten-free? Like, no, those are for you. You have those for yourself. Well, you can try one. I said, well, I'll trade you for a snickerdoodle. It's an old joke. I've used it 1,000 times. And usually, I used to get a giggle. I think now I get kind of like that face, like, oh, you're so smart. You're so smart. But not really. This like, aren't you so clever? I will kill you in your sleep. Like that kind of face. Now, George put a link in the chat that I missed. It's www.facebook.com/Tutors for Ukraine. So I don't know if that's the same group. I would think that. I don't know. We'll have to. We'll have to figure out.
I'll need to look at it. I should have mentioned there are social media groups of volunteers. So if you become a volunteer, you would have like a Facebook group where you can share ideas and get advice and helpful suggestions. So I'm on the Facebook one. I'm not even sure what other social media.
This is a different group that appears to do the same thing.
Oh.
But okay. Hey, no problem. And Kristen says, you're the best mom for the cookies. George just put in the chat, have you tried gluten-free chocolate? It needs gluten. No arguments. No arguments here. Thank you, Mother.
Oh, thanks so much, son-in-law. You're my favorite.
That is, let's be clear, folks. It's a list of one. But I'm still the favorite, and I'll take it. I will take it. And for you making cookies, we'll just have to go for Chinese the next time that you're here.
Okay.
You're probably going to be sad the next time that you come, because I think Christmas is coming down in the area. Not the house. The house won't be de-Christmased until Easter, or until the first, probably until the first 80-degree day. And if that doesn't come till June, well, then we'll just, we'll live with it. But that said, I think Bethlehem will be de-Christmased relatively soon. But the Chinese food will still be here, and Taste of Italy will still be here.
Okay, so then we're good.
All right, well then it's okay. Then you can visit your grandma. Anyway, thank you for doing this. Pretty easy, right?
Thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. It was easy peasy.
Pretty easy. It's not hard talking to millions of people. It's just a chat.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. 7:31 Eastern Time. here on the Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 19th of January 2025. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Ghost Club Productions, TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, and Hot101.net. You're also on my personal Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, as well as, of course, our home group Facebook page for all things that surround the Kennedy Effect. That, of course, is that other side of information. Our Facebook group has now gone to the 1,400 mark, which certainly may not sound like a lot, and I can understand why you would feel that way. But hey, it's more than we've ever had before, so we're thrilled about that, and we invite you, of course, to become part of our Facebook group as well. We invite you to do it, encourage you to do it. You are welcome, beyond welcome, to become part of our Facebook group. I was really excited, actually, to see that we had reached 1,400 members. I've been a bit obsessive and obsessing about getting to 1,500. We had stalled, if you will, if that's the right word for it. We had stalled at about 1,300 or 1,300 for quite a while, but we have persevered. We have gone beyond that, and that's pretty cool. So thank you all for that. I sincerely appreciate it. It means a lot. It truly does. It means a lot. Very glad that you did that. Very thankful that you did that. We appreciate it. Our phone line is now open, by the way, at 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. It is right over I'm getting backward because I'm mirroring. It is right over my left shoulder, as is all of our social media. You can, the line is open. There's a chance that Thomas might be calling in later, but I'm not 100% sure. But the line is open, 267-227-9189. Nice big sniffle into the microphone for you as I have this. I think cold has re-entered the house. Neither Kristen or I is desperate. Like, we're not at death's door, but I think we're both battling a bit of cold again. Unless, I had steroids and antibiotics for it last time. All these things to try to get rid of it. They took like some pretty harsh medicine to get rid of it. I did finally, obviously, but yeah, I think it's coming back though. I tend to think I'm a tiny bit stuffy. I had the real pleasure, of jumping on the program with Pastor Best earlier in the day, and it was really nice to jump in with him for a couple minutes. Pastor Best does a program. I want to say he's once a week. I'm pretty sure he's once a week. Let me check GCPR.live. He is every Sunday from 2 p.m. And he's been a guest on our program, I believe, twice now. His program airs on GCPR Live, GCPR.live, 2 p.m. on Sundays. It's called Impolite Company. It is a brilliant, brilliant mix of Pastor Best's current calling as a pastor and the intersection of his past career as a high-level political insider, political operative, consultant, all of it. And the intersection of those two things is a wonderful program. Rules of Nerd Position, of course, happens at 3 p.m. on Sundays. We come to you at 6. There is room, folks. There really is. People have asked me in the past, how can you pump 2 radio stations like that when they're on the air at the same time? There's a lot of hours in a week. There really, really is. There's a lot of hours. There's hours for GCPR and there's hours for Hot 101. We want you to take in both. I am beyond proud to be members, be part of both families, and not just because I co-own GCPR, but I'm just proud to be surrounded by the people that are a part of it. I hope that you are as well. I hope that you will continue to check us out and learn about the station, gcpr.live. And when you need to disconnect from life and the reality and the beatdown that life can be, Hot 101 is there with music for you 24/7. Both sites are free. Do not need to even create a login for either one to be able to listen. Exciting news on the GCPR front. If you go to our website, you'll see, scroll down. This is something George could probably put in the chat to inform you all, that you can help us test our Android app. And Gilbert is currently working on writing an Apple app because it's not universal. They work differently for Apple systems and they work differently for the Android operating device or operating system. And as soon as these are done, I think it's going to be a real game changer for GCPR. Then you will literally be able to download an app, tap on it, and listen. And I would hope watch as well. I honestly don't know because I'm not a coder, not a computer programmer. George and Gilbert are, which is exactly why you should be listening to the Help Desk. They're on Tuesdays from 6, right before us. You will notice this came up actually during our staff meeting for GCPR on Saturday. That the website says that I'm still on 5 nights a week. I am not. I was literally told by my doctor to stop doing 5 nights a week. But my hope is that we will get back to that if/when my health improves. I kind of hope that we can get back to 5 nights a week. I don't know if that'll happen, but it would be great if we could. The GCPR.live has our entire broadcast schedule there. I ask you to check it out and support all the programs at GCPR. It's where your voice matters, and I hope that you'll check us out. This leads me to what I spoke about earlier, and that is that there have been the left, if you will, many groups across the country, Move On, and Working Families, and DSA, Our Revolution, Indivisible, and just many progressive, PDA, Progressive Democrats of America, have all kind of combined to foster, encourage a corporate media boycott/blackout tomorrow, and to not watch the inauguration. I happen to believe in this effort. I have told you before on this program that voting does not only happen twice a year. It does not only happen on primary election day and general election day. You vote. You make political decisions every single day. Even if you are a non-political person. If you're one of those folks that says, I don't, pox on both their houses, I don't pay attention to it. You make political decisions every single day. Every day. You make those decisions through your purchasing habits primarily. If you buy, shop, consume at businesses and corporations that happen to financially support a particular political point of view, for example, Chick-fil-A is notoriously anti-LGBTQIA community. I will not eat there. I have never eaten. Even though, to be perfectly honest with you, it is bloody tempting. I see all the Chick-fil-A commercials too, and it looks bloody good. But I will not eat there because I do not support their hatred and open antagonism and well, I can't think of the word right now, of the LGBTQIA community. In fact, I think the owners of Chick-fil-A had been part of many of these anti-LGBTQ lawsuits, including ones to overturn gay marriage. They have helped financially, written amicus briefs and so on to support said things. BJ's is notoriously anti-union. So we shop at Costco, where they are unionized and they pay their workers a living wage. And workers that, when you are actually physically shopping at a Costco, will tell you it's a good place to work. It can be hard work, and maybe they work some hours they don't want to. Maybe they want to go to a ball game on Saturday and they get scheduled. It happens. But the workers that I've run into at Costco, overwhelmingly, there's always somebody who's not terribly happy with where they work. I'm not happy. That said, they are unionized, and they are unionized, and they're generally happy. And Costco has found that their turnover, employee turnover, is much less compared to their competition. We won't shop at Sam's Club because it's Walmart. It's just an extension of Walmart. Donna mentions in the chat that she doesn't shop at Hobby Lobby. Kristen and I walked into Hobby Lobby for the very first time right before the wedding because there were things that we wanted for the wedding that we simply could not find. That sadly we did find at Hobby Lobby. It is the first time we have shopped there. I suspect it will be the last time that we shop there. My point is that we make these political decisions every day. You make a political decision by what media you consume. Do you watch Fox? Even if you're the most progressive person, do you watch Fox to see what the other side is lying about? Are you strictly MSNBC? Do you watch CNN? Do you listen to Sean Hannity or Tom Hartman? And do you buy from the advertisers from Hannity or from Tom Hartman? These are the political decisions that we make with our wallet every single day. The fact that so many people, and not just people on the left, but that so many people have now forced X, Twitter, that when you do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo, which I would highly recommend, a DuckDuckGo search, of the top 25 free sites, not just free social media sites, but free sites, period, or if they're top apps or something like top 25 top apps or something like that. I forget how you word it. X, Twitter, doesn't even come up anymore because the number of people that have left the platform, not kept the app and just don't use it anymore, but literally have left it and deleted it. You do that top 25, Twitter doesn't even appear in it. These are economic decisions that we make on a daily basis. My body's beginning to completely betray me here. Thought we were going to squeeze out the whole 3 hours. I'm starting to wonder. These are economic decisions that we make every single day. They're political decisions. Do I buy Toyota or Chevy? Do I use free roads or toll roads? Public or private school? This hospital system or that hospital system? These are economic, political decisions that we literally make every day. And tomorrow is one of those decisions. Will I personally black out corporate media? I intend to. Now I'm going to be working too. I can't sit in front of the TV all day and watch the charade, the circus that's going to happen in DC. And I'll still be listening to the radio throughout the day, but it'll be Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Thomas in the morning. I'm pretty sure Thomas is live tomorrow morning. He wasn't sure if he was going to do a program given this, the staggering importance of the day and the dichotomy of the day. If he is on live, I will listen to him. If he's not, I'll listen to Stephanie Miller and then Tom Hartman and then sports radio in the afternoon to take a break. But these are decisions that we make. So why am I going all into this? Really two reasons. I support this corporate media blackout. I truly do. You know, something really, really extraordinary happened on MSNBC this past week. A discussion was happening on Morning Joe, which I watch so much less than I used to after Joe and Mika traveled to Mar-a-Lago and bent the knee. And by the way, as a geek, as like a fantasy science fiction geek, the fact that bent the knee has come from Game of Thrones and become this, like, at least I think that's where I first heard it. It has become this quite ubiquitous saying throughout society now. I think it's just the funniest freaking thing ever. I love it. It makes me, as a geek, as a science fiction geek, it just makes me happy. That said, because they traveled there and bent the knee, and then a discussion broke out on Morning Joe earlier in the week. Michael Steele, former chair of the Republican National Committee, was one of the guests, and they were talking about reporting Trump and being more civil to him and how, you know, we need to start talking to each other and being more civil. And it was Michael Steele, the Republican, a man who still says, he's not a member of the Republican Party anymore, but he's still a conservative. He's still a Republican in the way that Republicans used to be, in the 90s at least anyway, and early 2000s, which was also nothing like Republicans used to be going back to Eisenhower, or even Nixon for that matter. And said, no, you can't be civil. You can't be civil with people who want you dead. You can't be civil with people who would just as soon shoot you as anything else. You can't be simple with people who do not follow law, who do not follow the Constitution. You can't be civil with people who want a percentage of the population to be uneducated, starved, without the ability to access medical care, who will give you death threats, stalk your home, stalk your children. Billionaires who want to buy MSNBC just so they can shut it down, the way they did Air America. How are you civil with that? And it speaks to the 30% of the country. And by the way, only 30% of the total population put Trump back in the White House. He won the election. It was a legal, open, clean election. Period. I'm not here to talk to you about election fraud. I don't believe there was it. He won. He still did not win a majority of the voting public. 48.5%? He still didn't break 50%. And as a total percentage, back that up. Grammar, try to fix your grammar. As a percentage of the total population, only 30% of Americans put Trump back in the White House. This is not a mandate. So as many as 70% of us can make a real statement tomorrow. Don't put on MSNBC. Don't put on CNN. Don't put on Fox, or Newsmax, or OAN, or ABC, or CBS, or NBC. Don't watch any of it. If you really want to watch the inauguration, may I strongly suggest PBS or C-SPAN. C-SPAN is government funded. And it's the law of the land that cable systems all have to carry it. PBS has already been a target of Trump, and he hasn't even gotten back in the White House yet. He wants all government funding from it removed. By the way, depending on the internet search that you do, only 7 to 15% of the funding for PBS comes from the government anyway. I actually thought it was already 0. But if you do want to watch the circus that's going to be happening in DC tomorrow, please use PBS or C-SPAN. Here's the next step in my larger point here. GCPR will be here. We will be on the air. Hot 101 doesn't have talk on a Monday, and that's fine. That is not a dig or anything like that. You can go to Hot 101 and listen to music all day and tune out that way, if that's your choice, while we still have sun in this country, for at least the remaining moments that we still have sun. You want to tune out? You don't want any of it? Hot 101 is a great place to go. Listen to the music all day. GCPR will be here and be on the air. I may have to do a program tomorrow night. I had to stop doing Mondays, but I might have to tomorrow, depending on how batshit his speech is. But you do have a chance to make a choice. You can, and I'm encouraging, I'm asking you, not just to tune out, but to choose something different. And that would be us. Now, is that terribly self-serving of me? Damn straight it is. 100%. Completely guilty. Totally guilty. Yes, it's self-serving. But I also think it's important to tell you that we will be here. We are not corporate media. Thomas went on one hell of a rant on Friday. His program went almost 3 straight hours. He barely took a breath. It was staggering radio. And I say that in every positive way that you can mean staggering. He was captivating, staggeringly good radio. And he went on a very long, but very substantive, passionate rant about how this station, GCPR, and 101, because they continue to allow me to be part of their family, we're not going to bend the knee. We are not going to capitulate. We are not going away. We are not going to normalize the abnormal. We will not, in our own way, quote unquote, air quotes, legalize the illegal. We will not constitutionalize the unconstitutional. So we will be here. I do not normally do shows on Monday, but I might have to tomorrow. Just to, like I said, depending on how completely batshit crazy it gets in DC tomorrow. Flags are supposed to still be flying at half staff for the passing of President Carter. It means they would have been flying half staff through the inauguration. Trump had a very childlike hissy fit, like all of us when we were children and we got to the checkout line at the grocery and we saw the candy bars. By the way, that's why the candy bars are there, so that we see them and we can buy them on the way out. But you've all seen the young child in a shopping cart that has just a complete meltdown because mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or aunt, uncle, whoever it might be, won't buy them the candy bar on the way out. So Trump had one of those fits. So the flags will be back at full staff on Monday. I don't know if the flags here in my own development will go back to full staff, but at least the ones in DC will. That's what got put back in the White House. A 79-year-old, morbidly obese, artificially painted ex-president. We've already seen the reports that mass immigration raids are planned for Chicago beginning tomorrow. No accident, by the way, that they chose a blue city. They could do a raid like that through Miami if they wanted to. But Florida's a red state. Trump won't embarrass one of his own. They could do it through Houston, Dallas. He won't do that to Greg Abbott. So they're starting in Chicago tomorrow. There are reports that the incoming regime, has over 300 executive orders ready to be signed tomorrow. I suspect a good number of them will end up in court. I suspect many of them will be unconstitutional. But then again, they own the Supreme Corporation, so very few of them will be declared unconstitutional. Although John Roberts and ironically Amy Coney Barrett have actually shown some spine on occasion. Everything changes. It's happening tomorrow. The mainstream corporate media will call it an inauguration. It is nothing of the sort. It is an installation. If it wasn't such a magisterial word, I would say it was a coronation. And the header for this program for tonight, sort of the blurb on top of the program to tell people what we'll be discussing, is that I'm losing my wording. I'm trying to make sense of my wording, and it's not going well. I've used the F word on this program before, and not that F. Well, I have used that F word too. Sometimes when I get really pissed off. But from the very beginning of this program, I have used an F word that Democrats were afraid to use, and that the media, by and large, never used. And that's fascism. A Let's remember that Mussolini's own definition of fascism was the merger of corporate and state interests, the unbridled use of governmental power to further corporate aims. For me, and no one has to agree with me, I'm not that smart. Tomorrow's the end of the fascist takeover of this country. But we're going to be transitioning into a new F word, which is feudalism. And I think it's time to start using that one too. The fascists have won. At a minimum for 2 years. But they've won. We're almost made it to the 250th anniversary of this country as an actual democracy. We're not now. We're not. We almost got there. But we didn't. So here's what I see as happening. The transition of the country from democracy to fascist state is now done. And that is completed tomorrow when Trump places his hand on what we will be told is a Bible and violates his oath of office before he ever finishes reciting it. Because he's already talked about how the Constitution should be suspended. His oath to protect and defend a document he doesn't think should exist anymore against enemies both foreign and domestic. Well, he sold classified documents and nuclear secrets to the Saudis, the Chinese, and Israelis, and Russians, and intends to free those convicted of storming the Capitol violently. So there's your enemies, both foreign and domestic. So he'll violate this oath of office and violate the Constitution with the Emoluments Clause from before he ever finishes, before he draws his first breath. When Chief Justice Roberts says, "Repeat after me." This is not an inauguration in any normal way. It's an installation of a paid, owned dictatorship. And you know that I hate to use these phrases over and over again because I do think there's an element of superiority to them. There's an element of me kind of talking down at you as if you're stupid. You're not stupid people. But I do believe we have to realize what's happened to us. And I'm sure a lot of you disagree, and that's fine. It's okay. At least for now, we're still allowed to do such things. But that's how I see it. This is a completion of a transition from small d democracy to capital F fascism. And now a new transition is going to begin with Project 2025, Project 47, 300 plus executive orders ready to roll starting tomorrow. You can put whatever title on it that you wish. And that's now going to be the transition from fascism to feudalism. If you don't know what feudalism is, look it up. Or maybe George can cut and paste the definition and put it in the chat for us. That's how I see it. That's what's actually happening. That's what you're boycotting. Now, there's a lot of discussion, honestly, from all different types of political persuasions about whether boycotts are effective or not. Boycotts, were done throughout the South, in the civil rights movement. They've folks on the right, conspiracy theorists on the right, boycotted Starbucks when their cup, they didn't like the design of their Christmas cup. Weird shit. And they've worked at times. There were boycotts throughout the anti-Vietnam War movement. At times they have worked. And hell, the colonists boycotted British tea, and it put a real dent into the king's purse, so to speak. So there's some discussion back and forth about how effective boycotts can be, and I don't know if this will be widely successful tomorrow. I almost said tomorrow night, but I guess tomorrow night's part of it. So I suppose there could be discussion and disagreement and debate about how successful this could be. But simply because it might not be overwhelmingly successful, it to me does not mean that we should not do that. If your inclination is to say, you know what, I'm going to be part of this, then be part of it. Even if you think that it might not work enough, but you think it's the right thing to do, then do it. I plan to do it. That doesn't make me smarter or better than any of you. I'm just saying I plan to do it. I won't be watching Morning Joe tomorrow. I will not watch the albeit left-leaning coverage that happens at night. If I need a breakdown of his speech, I will go to the Associated Press or the BBC or the Canadian Broadcasting System. I'll get it from there. And I'm strongly considering being here tomorrow night. I'll have to see what George thinks. I don't even know if George is still in the chat. I might have bored him to death. He may have finally passed out from boredom. It wouldn't surprise me. I would agree with it. Or decided to go get dinner or something, which I don't blame him for. I'm actually hungry for the first time all day. But yeah, I think you should be part of it. If you don't think you should be part of it, if you don't think it's the right thing to do, then don't. I think you should be. These are decisions that we make every single day. When I decide to buy from this place instead of that place, Kristen and I love coffee. We love coffee shops. We make very deliberate decisions to go to one-off single proprietorship coffee shops. Have we gone to Starbucks before? Sure, we have. Especially when we're in a place that we're not familiar with. But when we're local, when we know where we are, and we know where all the single one-off shops are, we go there. Have we ever eaten at a chain restaurant? Of course we have. We have. We happen to be particularly fond of Red Robin. We just do. They have good burgers. What can I say? They do. But we also make very deliberate choices. Even when we're just desperate for a burger, there's a nice single one-off place here in town. They're just not open enough hours, in my humble opinion, but I don't run the business. And they probably shouldn't beat the piss out of them, and they'll never advertise here. But that said, we don't go there probably enough. We try to go to these single proprietorship restaurants, especially family ones. We're very fortunate that there are some fantastic family-run restaurants in the Lehigh Valley. Italian, Indian, Mexican, Chinese, Greek, and we try to visit all of them as often as we can. That's an economic decision that we make. It's a political decision that we make. We go to Michael's instead of Hobby Lobby. That's a political, economic decision that we make, a conscious decision that we make. So the treats and food that we buy for the dog, for her own health, as well as a conscious economic political decision, we buy only, and toys as much as we possibly can too. We buy only things that are made in the United States. So you can do these things. You can do this tomorrow. And I think it'll send a hell of a message. Now, Musk, at least outwardly, has not shown any outward consternation at the demise of Twitter. Millions of people have left the platform. There are still billions left, but there's still a piece of the planet that's on it. But millions have left it. And again, it has driven down revenue. It has driven down, they're not top 25 in a search anymore. That's an economic and political decision that we made. I can tell you that a few years ago, this goes back years. Somebody will tell me how many years. I want to say in the neighborhood of 4 years ago. No, it had to be less than that. We were already living together. Maybe 3 years ago, when Kristen and I found out that AT&T was financing One America Network. And if you think Fox lies and is right wing, you ain't seen nothing till you've seen One America. They're further to the right than Newsmax. But AT&T was funding them, like not just buying advertising from them, but sending them millions of dollars to put them on the air. We dropped AT&T like it had the plague. That's an economic decision that we made. You can do this tomorrow. And you might think it's foolish or not worth it, or I'm telling you that it is. It is worth it. It is worth it. You get to make a statement. And I strongly encourage you to do so. I need to ask a question to the folks in the audience as well, to all of you. I'm actually seeing right now that the number watching us is hovering in the 20 range, which might not sound like a lot. For me, it actually is, which maybe doesn't say much for me. We do actually get a lot of people who watch the program after the fact, after the live, watch the recording. I'm just wondering, to those of you that I may not see or do not know, like I know where Joan Kui is, I know where Randall is, and Bettina, Donna. Where are you watching? Give me a first name only, and only if you're comfortable sharing it. Where are you? And where are you taking this in? Is it Twitch? Is it LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? It's not YouTube because I'm watching YouTube. I wonder why no one goes to YouTube. Why nobody watches at YouTube. There's a chat there you can watch. It's all the same as watching anywhere else. If you would be so kind, just drop me a quick comment. It's Joe from Gotham City. Bruce from Gotham City. George will love this one. It's Bruce from Gotham City, and I'm on Twitch. That would be awesome. I just am curious. One of the things I mentioned on the program this past week is how we have to change language to be more accurate, more factual. We have to stop calling Republicans Republicans. The Republican Party, even as we knew it as late as 2008, no longer exists. It is the Trumpist, Trumper, whatever you want to call it, party. It's his party. What he says goes. And the billionaires who prop him up because they want tax cuts. Or they want their taxes flat out eliminated, which is what Project 2025 calls for, among many other things in the 900-page document. The Republican Party, as we have known it, no longer exists. It is the Trump Party. We do not live in a small d democracy anymore. If you want to use the word oligarchy, I can live with that. I don't think it goes far. If, like me, you are willing to use the word fascism, I think that's much more accurate. And as I stated just a few minutes ago, the transition from fascism to feudalism begins tomorrow. Now, Randall mentions in the chat the Trump MAGA party. I almost think sometimes that MAGA makes it sound fun. And in a weird way, harmless. It's Trump's party. What he says goes. People fear him. It is a dictatorship. You're either with him or you're drummed out. I am blanking on the gentleman's name, like literally blanking on it. I read the story, I think, Thursday. But the House member that was removed as the chair of the Intelligence Committee, he's about as right-wing and nuts as you can find. He's all in for dismantling government and eliminating taxes on rich people and making poor people pay more and starving kids and ending education. He's all in. But he also happens to think that Russia's a real threat to this country. And he believes that Ukraine needs to be propped up. And so Trump got rid of it. The other end of that is that this idiot will vote with him still 99% of the time. When he should come to the realization that he's no longer wanted or needed because he's not nuts enough, because he's not fascist enough. But he'll still vote with him. The Republican Party, as we knew it, does not. Mike Turner, thank you, George. Representative Turner, I think he's from Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's from Ohio. Might be Michigan, but I think it's Ohio. He's not Trump enough. It's not that he's not Republican enough or right, far right enough. And I don't mean right isn't correct. I mean right isn't right side of the scale. It's not that he's not wink, wink, wink conservative enough. There are no real conservatives anymore either, by the way. The root word of conservative is conserve. What do they want to conserve other than taxes for rich people? He's not nuts enough. He's not Trump enough. So he got removed. The realignment, the re-education, if you will, and I'll use that word lightly because I'm not a fan of it, kind of harkens back to a totalitarian re-education camp like they have in China. I don't mean that in that way. But this realignment of thinking on the left has to happen. Words matter. The Republican Party as we knew it no longer exists. It's the Trump Party now. It is the cult of one person. And the billionaires that own him, but other than Musk, most of the billionaires that own him aren't looking to be public figures. Musk is an egomaniac. Most of the other billionaires that own him just want to stay in the background. They just want tax cuts. They just want their taxes eliminated. They want protections for the environment and from your money being stolen from you and scammed from you. They want regulations gone, not just reduced, but taken away. It's the Trump Party. Let's start using that. Let's not talk about small d democracy anymore unless as a current state of affairs of this nation. We can talk about restoring democracy. I'm not sure we can talk about saving it anymore. And there is another F word that we're going to start using on this program, and it's feudalism. When Project 2025 calls for the end of all unions, end of the minimum wage, and end to child labor laws, an entire political institution that's willing to put 7, 8, and 9-year-old kids back in coal mines, that's feudalism. That's not even fascism. It's feudalism. How long before we all start living in the old company towns where the employer owns your house, the general store, and that whatever they pay you, you end up giving back to them anyway in rent and to shop at the company store? If Medicaid funding or the Medicaid program from the federal level down is ended, as Project 2025 calls for, just here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it'll cost us $6 billion. And 400,000 Pennsylvanians will lose their ability to see a doctor. Let's stop calling it access to healthcare. That almost sounds a little scientific. 400,000 Pennsylvanians will lose their ability to see a doctor because they will no longer be able to afford it. Words matter. And the accuracy of those words matter. And by the way, that's not just fascism, that's feudalism. That's feudalism. Listening to Thomas this week, and I thought he was going to call in, but I guess not, because they should be getting ready for their show. Their pre-show should be starting pretty soon. I kept typing in the chat to his program over and over again, sometimes multiple times within a program. And I have to say, and I know some of you might be listening now, and I might really piss you off. I kept putting in the chat, are we not better than this? Do we not deserve more than this? No one answered. No one said, yeah, you're right. That I saw. If I missed it, I'll take that. If I missed it, I'll take the hit on that. But as Thomas said, here's what they're doing. Here's what this is about. You should be pissed about this. I would drop in the chat, usually YouTube. I didn't watch him on TikTok. Are we not better than this? Do we as a population, as a society, do we not deserve better than this? And no one answered. We have to look ourselves in the mirror. We really do. How much resistance are we going to be? Will we make these economic decisions on a daily basis? I intend to continue to do so. Will we black out corporate media tomorrow? I certainly hope so. Will we continue to not normalize what the right wing has become? When Joe and Mika traveled to Mar-a-Lago and bend the knee, they normalized this shit. And Michael Steele, live on their own program, looked them in the face and said, you can't normalize this shit. There is no Republican Party. It doesn't exist. It is Trump. It is the cult of Trump. You are with him or you are against him. Fascism is fully in place now. That's done. Now we transition into feudalism. I'm not sure even Reagan had this in mind. When he instituted trickle-down economics. Words matter. They matter. Do I fear for what's coming? Yes, but not fear in the way that I think the stormtroopers are coming to my door. Not right away. My fear is more, am I going to be able to keep my house? Am I going to be able to keep the ability to literally feed myself? Will I be able to continue to see a doctor? I wonder. Will we have elections again in 2 years? I pretty much believe yes. Will we have them in 4 years? Right now, I can't tell you yes. Steve Bannon has already floated the idea that Trump can run for a third term because his 2 terms have not been served consecutively. By the way, the Constitution doesn't say anything about that. It says that you can serve 2 terms or 10 years as president. So where he's getting this idea, I have no clue, other than the fact that they only think the Constitution is a talking point. It's something that they talk about when they need to rile up the cult following. It's nothing they intend to adhere to or follow or protect and defend from enemies both foreign and domestic. It's a tool. It's a cape. This is not an inauguration that's happening tomorrow. It's an installation. The billionaires have bought the machinery of government. They now own it. And Trump is just a machine part that's being plugged into place. And all the people around him. I read you an article on our weeknight program. The incoming Trump regime has been questioning the career national security staff at the White House as to who they voted for. Not just in this election, but in past elections, and how loyal they are to Trump. Not to the country, not to the military, not to democracy, but to Trump. And if they're deemed not sufficiently loyal, they're fired. Even if the firings are illegal to the Civil Service Code. Some have just resigned because they know they're going to get fired anyway. So the fascism part is done. That's done. Now the feudalism comes. I've talked to and seen online even some of my friends that are quote unquote left leaning who seem to be quite excited about the fact that, well, Trump's going to eliminate the Social Security tax. What do you think funds the program? If he does that, the program goes broke in 7 years. That's the plan. Other Trumpers in Congress have already introduced legislation to end Social Security. End it. Dismantle the program. Meaning that seniors would have to work until they're dead. They'd never retire. That's feudalistic. It's feudalism. Words matter. Words matter. They just matter. I think this boycott could matter. It's not supposed to. This is not an inauguration tomorrow. It is not. It's an installation. One of the machine parts that the billionaires bought and paid for is being installed tomorrow. It's not terribly different than you buying a new washer and having it delivered and installed. So please don't watch tomorrow if you think that's the right thing I happen to. I hope you agree. Let me give a look here at the Associated Press. See if there's any other big stories. Oh, TikTok has been restored. I actually did a promotional video on TikTok today to try to ask people to check out the program. I have no idea how many people viewed it. I'm trying to figure that out. Answer this. Hang on 1 second. And whoever has me, you got to get rid of me in the background. We're echoing already. Hang on 1 second. I'm trying to answer a question. Please be patient. Hang on. I think it's probably Randall. Hang on. Hold on. Come on, phone. Work with me. Not gonna work, man. Jeez. Come on, phone. The worst iPhone I've ever owned. Yeah, 350 people viewed the video. Some of the others have been usually 1,500, some as many as 2,000. So I didn't do great. The TikTok has been restored. Thomas, he knows a hell of a lot more about this whole thing than I. Believes that the whole ban and everything behind TikTok is to take it out of business because Facebook can't compete with it. I think that could probably be true. There's also talk of an American billionaire buying it. I tend to think that it's more that, to force a sale to an American billionaire who can then make money off of it, and to force the sale at a reduced under market value price. I don't think it was ever to deny us TikTok. I don't think it was ever concerned about the Chinese getting our data. The Chinese already have our data. They just hacked the personnel office of the federal government a couple weeks ago. You don't think Zuckerberg has sold our personal data to Chinese firms? Of course he has. You don't think Google has done the same thing? Or that Musk has done it with X, Twitter? They have already got all that. This isn't about Chinese people owning TikTok. It's about that Facebook can't compete with it. So we can use the ruse of Chinese ownership. Well, it's really not it is Chinese ownership. And the Chinese military has a piece of every Chinese corporation. But this so-called concern about Chinese having our data, stop it. Anyway, Randall, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I just want to real quickly say just what you're talking about. TikTok, let me back up. Communist China.
I thought only I did that.
Communist China has a law that says any company in China has to give up all the data to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, remember, China is an oligarchy in itself.
Correct.
It's ruled by 5,000 families. They are the party. They're the ones that get they're the ones that get the top of the cream jobs. They're the ones that get the top of the cream to buy capitalistic countries that have made China a global economic power.
President Xi is one of the richest men on earth. His wealth cannot be accurately calculated because all the sources of it cannot be accurately traced. China's industrial base was built by American companies when Reagan dismantled our tariff system and made it cheaper for all these goods that were being manufactured here in this country to be made overseas and then shipped back here because the tariffs were gone. I think the Chinese, regular, that's probably not the right word. Average, that's probably not the right word either. A factory worker in China makes a dollar or two an hour, I believe it is. It used to be a dollar or two a day. China now has the largest middle class on earth. both in sheer number. Then again, they have 1.2, 1.4 billion people. But they have the largest middle class in number, and they have the largest percentage of their population as a middle class. They're the largest middle class on earth. That used to be the United States until Reagan. We used to be the world's largest exporting country of finished goods and importer of raw materials. In just the 8 years under Reagan, that completely flip-flopped. We became the largest exporter of raw materials and importer of finished goods. We were the largest creditor nation on earth when Reagan came to power, meaning we lent more money to other nations and so on throughout the planet. We became the largest debtor nation in the 8 years under Reagan. We built China because we exported our entire manufacturing base to them so billionaires could make more money and destroy unions, of course, because heaven forbid workers would be able to collectively bargain. They were also the largest funding source of the Democratic Party, so we gutted funding for our opposition party. We killed unions, moved our entire manufacturing base to China. Go ahead, sir.
And it all began with the family bureaucracy of capitalists, the Waltons, Walmart. First, they moved like New England, Philadelphia, right here was one of the capital manufacturing places for textile clothing. But it was unionized. First, they moved everything to the south. They told their suppliers, if you don't do this to give us lower cost, we're finding somebody else. And they did. Yep. They moved the jobs, the north unionization to the south non-unionization. And then they said to the companies, if you don't build a plant and use cheap Chinese labor, we're going to find somebody else to do it. And then Sears and Kmart and everybody else followed in line, and they got screwed with the whole system, and essentially are out of business. That's exactly what happened.
Well,
as far as in that,
let me just insert two quick things here. I'm 5 minutes from Bethlehem Steel. All you need to do is talk about the steel industry. Reagan did a campaign stop at Bethlehem Steel when he was running in 1980 and told the workers and told the gathered crowd that this plant would sustain your families for a century, another century at least. They were completely shut down by 1993 because he eliminated the tariffs on foreign steel because American billionaires, big companies wanted cheap foreign steel, non-union labor, cheap labor, slave labor. Second thing that I wanted to insert, why did I forget it now? Ah, crap, I'm getting old.
Yeah, we are. Anyway,
go ahead, because I forgot what it was.
Speaking of the steel industry, I'm like just a couple of miles from the Mason-Dixon line in Delaware. And right over the Delaware line is Claymont. Claymont had one of the biggest steel plants in the country. It was going bankrupt, and the communist Chinese government bought that steel plant, ran it into the ground. It's gone. It's been decontaminated brownfield wise. And what is on that massive piece of property in Claymont, just over the border from PA? They're building the same problem that they're doing up in your area of the state. They're building gigantic warehouses because I-95 is right there, and 495 cuts off. Bypasses around Wilmington is right there. But getting back to Reagan, in his 2 terms, he increased our federal deficit from what our federal deficit had compiled up and we paid off and compiled up and paid off from 1776 to 1980.
Correct.
Two World Wars, no, it's Civil War number one.
Yeah.
2 World Wars, and he tripled our national debt in 8 years. Tripled it from 1776 to 1980.
100%.
And we just look at the first 4-year terms. The first 4-year term of Trump,
$8 trillion.
The big 4-year national debt of any president's 4 years.
He piled more debt on in 4 years than any administration had done previous to him. $8 trillion in 4 years. If the tax cuts are extended, they will pile on another $8 trillion. If another tax bill is put on top of that extension, it could put as much as $12 trillion on top of the national debt. The national debt, by the way, is about $35 trillion. It is now 100% of our gross domestic product. There are only a few nations on earth whose national debt, and that's different from the deficit. The deficit is yearly, the debt is collective throughout the years.
Yep.
There's only a couple nations on earth whose debt is as high as their yearly gross domestic product, one of which, believe it or not, is Japan. But we've never had the national debt be 100% or more of our gross domestic product. If the Trump tax cuts are simply extended, and by the way, part of that tax cut bill is a tax increase, the highest percentage increase of which goes to the poorest Americans. And then as you work your way up, your rate of increase decreases. If they are extended, it'll be another $8 trillion in debt. If they are added to, it could be 10, 12 trillion more. Because remember, Project 2025 does not just call for the extension of the Trump tax cuts. It calls for the elimination of taxes on the richest and the largest corporations. Not just cuts. Elimination. Go ahead. We got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and our biggest part of the federal budget every year is the Department of Defense. Or what, $800 billion?
The last defense spending bill was $895. Senator Sanders consistently tells you that that spending bill does not include some ancillary spending that is tied to the Defense Department, and that the real number is more like $1.3 trillion.
Yep. When you add in everything else, and I'm 72, and physically I cannot work, and so if my Social Security is done away with and my Medicare is done away with, I'll be on the street. Me and the wife will both be on the street.
And do you? And as very cold and cruel as this is going to sound, do you understand? You do. It's a semi-rhetorical question because I know that you do. Do you understand that the forces that are now in control of this country don't give a flying shit whether you die in the street or not?
Yep.
They'll just find another one. They'll find another one. You don't work anymore. Right? Because you can't.
Yep.
Your limited income keeps you from being a very profitable consumer. You are a consumer out of necessity. So you're not generating wealth for anybody. You're what Mitt Romney called a taker. So they want you to die quicker. They don't care if you die quicker.
Yep.
You're not generating wealth. You're not generating it through your labor. because you're physically unable, and you're not generating it through your consumerism because you're on a fixed income. So you might as well just die quickly. They'll find somebody else. Somebody in West Virginia has a 7-year-old kid that they can throw in the mines to chop for coal. You don't count. And that's where we transition from fascism to feudalism. Die in the fields.
Yep.
Chop you up and use you for fertilizer, and we'll find somebody else. That's just it.
But I did see an interesting PBS. Well, actually, it was DCC carried by PBS on. They got a whole series on the history of England, and it's the transition that England made because the Black Death killed 50% of the total population, and because of that, the serf workers that were tied to the land the noble had to get permission to leave the land for any reason. For example,
right?
They started demanding higher wages because there was no workforce, because 50% of the population had died. Exactly. And it took England 2.5 centuries to regain the same economic place that they had before the Black Death hit England.
And what did the serfs, in essence, they didn't call it this. This is putting a modern term on an ancient time period. But in essence, what did that do for the serfs? What did they do to the nobility when they demanded more? When they demanded to keep more of their own money and not pay it in tribute and tax, when they demanded to keep more of the food that they were raising, what were they actually doing at that point? Collective bargaining.
Well, that's when the trade, and they weren't they were trade unions, but they were called something.
The guilds.
Guilds. Exactly. That's when they started.
The precursors to the modern labor union, the guilds.
The interesting thing that on this BBC show I saw on PBS here, there was no mention of women for anything in the tax records. And then you had to pay a death tax. The leading male of the family, if he died, you had to pay a death tax to the nobles.
Right.
It might be a cow, your horse. It might be your last piece of livestock, a sheep. And because so many males died, women started paying the death tax on their husbands or grandfathers, etc. And they were the ones that were paying the tax liens for the nobles afterwards.
Yep.
But there was absolutely no mention of women in historic context. Anyway, I'm rambling. I apologize. All right,
we got to wrap up anyway.
I know, and I hope you're on tomorrow night. I'd like to talk tomorrow night. Well, I'm not watching.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
I'm not watching.
I'll get to that in the last couple minutes here.
Our 3 TV sets are being set for Home and Garden Channel,
I love it.
the Hallmark Channel, and no news. There's no news in South Smart.
All right,
the TVs are just up for 24/7.
You got it.
On period. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Hang in there.
Good night.
All right, listen, just a couple minutes left. To all of you, and I do mean all of you, I would love to get your feedback on any of the socials. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky. Give me your feedback about whether you think we should be on tomorrow. I'll talk to Thomas. I'll talk to you, Nathan. See what we what we decide to do, there will be programming here on GCPR tomorrow where I'm asking you to make us your alternative at some point tomorrow. I think you should boycott corporate media. I will be. And I'm asking you to make us part of your alternative tomorrow. GCPR.live. You need music, you want to unplug completely, go to Hot 101. If you want some kind of news, but you don't want it to be big corporate news, I would suggest NPR, PBS. If you really want to watch the inauguration, C-SPAN, and Free Speech TV. You really want a newscast that tells you the truth. Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. It is absolutely unparalleled. But that said, we have to wrap it up. I want your feedback about whether we should be on tomorrow night, and I will talk to the other big boss here. Here's the rest of your broadcast. Immediately following us on Hot 101, the music returns. And again, plenty of hours in a week for both Hot 101 and GCPR. I hope you take in both. If you missed any of tonight's program, YouTube, that other side of information, always the best place to go to catch up. Immediately following us on GCPR.live and many of these same video outlets, The Villain's View with Thomas and crew. Following that, 11 p.m., Conversations with, I think so. I swear he's on tonight too. I think. Yes. From 11 p.m., Conversations with T. Nathan. Sound of Coffee, I am nearly certain, returns and begins your broadcast work week tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. And then give me your feedback. We'll be with you throughout the day to let you know whether we decide to hop on tomorrow night. Not normally on Mondays anymore because of my health, but we'll try to decide. I want your feedback. We'll be back possibly tomorrow night. We will definitely be back on Tuesday evening. So again, music at Hot 101, The Villain's View from 9 p.m., Conversations with T. Nathan from 11, Sound of Coffee tomorrow morning from 8 a.m., and quite possibly a TKE tonight, tomorrow evening from 8. For everyone at Hot 101, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and all of our dear Hot101.net family, for everyone at GCPR, Thomas and Gambit, Gilbert, and everyone at GCPR, for everyone that surrounds the Kennedy Effect, that is George and Lynn, and Kristen and Daisy the Dog, April Riddick, and me. Very much thanks to our guest, Darlene Bolchansky, my mother. How about that? Among her list of accomplishments, having me as a son-in-law, way down at the bottom. In very small. That's all the damage we can do for one night. We'll see you probably tomorrow evening. If not tomorrow, definitely on Tuesday. Until then, use your wallets. Make decisions. And please take care of yourselves and each other. For our GCPR audience, The Villain's View starts right now. For our Hot101.net audience, the music returns. We will see you next Sunday. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves.